I'm Rose. How are you doing today?
I am good. How are you? Glad
Good.
to on.
Yeah, I'm Lizzie. I'm with Central Alabama Voice, and we are joined here by Rose McCall. So tell me a little bit, first of all, about yourself, Rose.
Well, I am a native of Alabama, a graduate of George Washington Carver High School in Montgomery and Huntington College with a bachelor's degree in fine art. I have been competing since age 35, so I started really late, but
Oh, wow.
I've been doing pageants for at least 26 years. I've judged everything from Junior Miss Program to Miss Alabama preliminaries, Cinderella pageants, a little bit of everything.
That is so cool. So why did you, first of all, what were you doing before the age of 35?
Working for the federal government, actually, I worked for the Air Force from 1980 up until 2007.
Very cool. And what were you doing in the Air Force?
Video teleconferencing.
Oh, that's ironic.
Pretty.
That's funny. So you said you were 35 when you started. So what made you want to get into pageantry?
Well, I saw a pageant online and I thought, well, this would be a good fit. I need to try to do one of these before I actually start judging.
Hmm.
And that's why I did it, so I could see the other side of the pageant life.
Okay, so tell people that don't know a little bit about the pageant life, right? Like what actually goes into it? What's the day to day? How much do you compete? All those kinds of things.
Well, let me do it this way. I'll compare pageants if you're starting between 18 and 21, and pageants if you're starting over 60. Okay.
Okay.
Pageants, pageants for the young lady who has already started in this pageant life, say at age 18, needs to learn walk, interview comprehension. She needs to have some need to have a talent. Now that we've gotten into the world where we have pageant queens of all sizes, everything from Miss America to Miss Plus America, which I was in 2003. You have women of different backgrounds. And one of the things I used to tell my girls when I coach was that you need to know something about current events. So it's very important that the 18 to 24-year-old know about what's happening in the world. For the pageant queen who is 60 plus, I'm 66. So for the woman who's of a certain age, or as our founding director, Dr. Mott says, the age of elegance. A woman who's over 60 needs to be confident, self-assured. She needs to have an attitude of a lack of worry, basically. She needs to be comfortable in her own skin. One of the pageant queens that I've worked with before in Senior America, when I was trying to learn the ropes, told me the most important thing I can learn is how to be myself.
So let me ask you this. So how many, for a typical pageant woman, how many pageants are they competing in a year, let's say?
Well, it depends upon your preparation. Some girls only concentrate on one pageant a year. For example, my year is devoted to Senior Alabama, Senior America, because I have a lot to get ready for with the pandemic going on. There are some girls that prep for two pageants, certainly not more than three, because with pageants, there's travel involved, financing, you have to have sponsors. There's always something in the background that spurs you on to do more, but it's good not to tax yourself with more than two pageants at best.
So what is the preparation? I mean, I think a lot of people, when they think pageants, they think, oh, pretty girls, they don't think about all those other things that go into it. So tell me a little bit about what the preparation would be like.
Well, for me, as Senior Alabama, it means finding clothing that I need for interview. We have an 8-minute interview, and we have philosophy of life, which is done in evening gown. So I have to pick my gown, which I've already done, and I have to have a talent performance, which is up to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. which I've already picked the music for, already gotten the costume. And then at some point, start by making appearances like I'm doing now. Uh, this helps me get myself prepared to promote not just my state program, but perhaps national at some point.
That's awesome. I think for young people, like I said, there is kind of that stigma with pageantry, right? That it's just, girls in dresses or girls in bathing suits or things like that. What do you think that pageantry can instill in younger girls?
In the last 12 years, I've trained two girls for the Miss Alabama program. One of them graduated in 2009 debt-free. In the course of her 4 years of competition, she earned $12,500. Okay. For most girls who compete in pageants, the big thing for me that I always tell them is don't just go for the rhinestones, which, hey, I've got my rhinestone, but that's not the only it's not the only thing that you should really be looking forward to.
Right.
If it's scholarship money involved and you want to finish your education, they need to be like a couple of my pageant friends who are, the girl I was just speaking of, she's an attorney, licensed to practice in 3 states. Then I also have two friends who are former professional cheerleaders who started in the USA system. So they didn't have to have a talent presentation, but they wanted to earn scholarship money so they go to college. So that's what they did.
I think there's also probably a lot of skills that you learn, right? Like you learn some time management skills, you learn how to present yourself, speak a little bit about that as well.
Exactly. One of the things I hate to do is be late for anything, as you can see by all the messages I've sent you. The most important thing for me is to always be on time, whether it's for a pageant or for a job interview. If you're just taking the kids to work like I do, I tell my son, who is 30, I know that the ride takes 45 minutes. I need to leave here at 1:30 if I'm going to get you to work at 2 o'clock. So you have to make a chart, develop your plan, and always stay on it. The only time you don't work your plan is when you're on vacation. And even then, it's necessary to keep up with what you put on your calendar for that day because you might miss something.
Speak a little bit about, you said there's an interview process, right? Speak a little bit about that. What are typical pageant interviews look like?
Well, when a young lady walks into the room, or an old lady like me, the first thing you do is greet the judges. You sit down in a chair, or if they have you standing in front of I can't think of it, in front of the podium, you have to be prepared and ready. You should know everything that's on your application. That's very important. I remember years ago when I was judging a Junior Miss program, we had a young lady who came in and sat down, and one of the judges who was with me, who was a pianist, asked the young lady if she knew who Marion Morrison was. John Wayne. Okay, that's his real name, Marion Morrison. And the young lady—
I didn't know that.
Yeah. The young lady looked at her and said, no, I don't know who that is. And the lady just kind of made a note and moved on to the next judge. But you've got to know what you put down on your interview sheet. It's very important because you don't want to be caught flat-footed. I also tell them if the judge asks you a question that you can't answer, don't just say, no, I don't know the answer to it. The key to answering a question that you really don't know what it is, I'll get back to you. I have that at the top of my list, but I don't have an answer for you just yet. If you come back to me at the end of the session, I'll probably get to it. I can probably answer it for you then. I should know the answer to the question. 9 times out of 10, what you'll find out is the judges have already asked you so many questions that by the time you get back to that one judge who asked you that hard question, you've already left the room. So it's good to have an out, as I always say. If you can't answer the question, give them something to think about while you're thinking about an answer to the question they just gave you that you couldn't answer.
So what are some of the types of questions or topics that you would discuss in a interview setting like that?
Uh, well, like I said, your interview sheet, current events. Some pageants stay specifically away from politics. That's one of my key components. I stay away from politics when it comes to doing pageants because everybody has a different idea about what they do and don't like. You
Correct.
should also stay away from people who've had tragedies in their lives. We had one young lady years ago who had a family accident and a relative died, and it was one of her favorite relatives. So you never ask about death in the family and things of that nature because it involves a lot of grief and it can cause a real heartbreak in a young lady who's just trying to get through the pageant.
So tell me about the talent part. You said that you have it. So what is your talent?
Praise dancing. I
Oh,
have
great.
I have a routine that I started 2 years ago for one of the previous Alabama Senior America pageants, and I've upgraded it with a costume and a different set of music. And I've been working on the routine for the last 6 months. And starting the first of the year, I'll work with a friend of mine who's a dance choreographer. And she's already seen a video of what my dance looks like, and she's working on some stuff to add with it. But it's 2 minutes and 35 seconds, which if you're not used to doing a dance routine for that length of time, you need to work out because it takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in terms of again, younger people, like how do they find their talent? Do you change talents over the course of your pageant career? Do you what's kind of that process like?
Well, I always tell people do what you're best at. If you sing already and have a decent voice, get a voice coach. If you are a dancer and dance well, get a dance teacher and a choreographer to tighten up everything that you're doing. If you are in gymnastics, whatever your field of interest is that you're already doing, even from childhood, a lot of parents start their kids out as little kids doing something in the area of talent. The young lady that I was talking about earlier, who's a lawyer, she was a point dancer, had been dancing point since she was 5 years old and was absolutely fabulous at it. What we did was go to dance school, have the dance instructor tweak it, and she stayed with a point routine the whole 4 years. She competed at Miss Alabama. All we did was change the music and the costumes.
So you've mentioned that you've coached some pageant girls. Tell me about your coaching experience and why you got into wanting to after you so you judged first and then you became a coach. What was that process like? Why did you want to do that?
Well, after sitting and watching pageants for years as a little kid, Miss America I've watched since 1960, okay, black and white. And over the years, I developed a love for pageantry and I wanted to see how people did what they did. So I started going to a couple of pageants eventually. And I always tell young ladies, if you want to see how pageants work, go sit in the audience and watch one before you decide to do it. The young lady that I was just talking about, she had never been to a pageant other than her own. So it gives you a different perspective if you're the one in the audience watching so that you can armchair judge, as I always say, and see what happens with a pageant. For me, switching from judging pageants to coaching young ladies, I already knew most of the girls in the systems that I had judged. And for me, it meant, okay, let's step back and see if I can teach young ladies to do that thing that I love, pageants. And that's what I started with. Now, mind you, there's some young ladies who don't take instruction because they already have the mindset on how they want to do it. I've coached young ladies who've had their mindset on one thing. And I tend to grill you pretty hard if I'm asking you questions on a one-on-one basis if we're training. And I had one young lady break into tears because she thought I was too hard on her. Well, if I'm too hard on you, what do you think the judges are going to do to you when they get you in the room? It's different when you're judging little kids. Little children who do pageants don't get interviewed unless, of course, you're doing the peanut pageant. I judged the Dothan Peanut Festival for 5 or 6 times, And with the little kids, you just give them one question. You ask them what their favorite toy is, their favorite parent, how they like school, who their best friend is, simple stuff. The older young ladies at Peanut, they get the more complicated questions. So even at that age, you have to be careful of the types of questions that you get into, because you don't want to offend parents, you don't want to hurt the girls' feelings, and you certainly don't want to hurt your sponsors.
So what do you as a coach get out of coaching young girls? Like why do you continue to do it? And does it empower you? Do you feel a sense of relief when they are up there? It's like a proud mama kind of thing. What's kind of, why do you keep doing it?
Well, it's kind of the same reason I keep competing. It's a proud mama moment. For my kids, they love to see me on stage. For my friends, they're always respectful, and they enjoy seeing me in my latest adventure. For myself, when I'm sitting in the audience watching one of my girls compete, yes, it is thrilling to watch them win or come close to it. I can always tell if you're ready or not when you get up on stage, if nothing goes wrong. One young lady that I had watched, in fact, the same one that I've been talking about, her third year at Miss Alabama, she had a point shoe that unraveled right in the middle of her dance as she got ready to make her next move. And here you see this ribbon spiraling down to the floor.
Oh,
and
no.
I was out there having a stroke. Her mother sitting there grabbing my hand. You kind of have that moment when, okay, I can't go up there and tie it for her. She'll just have to work her way through it, okay? As an adult doing pageants, I always try to make sure I have everything ready before I pack it. And then once I get there, separate everything and make sure everything's in place. Because the worst thing you can do is leave something at home, because there's no way to go back and get it. Sometimes I take extras of things. Like right now, I have 2 extra interview dresses and the interview dress, so that if I need an extra dress for something, I've got it. And that's what I tell the girls. Always take extra clothes. Don't take exactly what you need. Take more than you need.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy in packing in general, right? It's like when you go on vacation, you always pack, or you don't know what you're going to want to wear, right? You might change your mind and feel better in something else. So tell me about Miss Senior Alabama. How did that happen? Is there a process like Miss Alabama where you go through and win certain pageants? Just walk me through all of that.
Okay. Well, I'll go back to the one that I did in 2018, because the last 2 have been at large, okay? The one in 2018 involved signing up for the pageant first. Rita Young Allen is our state director, and she competed in 2017, so she knew how to organize the pageant, what she needed to do to recruit contestants. And some of us had already done the pageant the year before, 2 years before, in 2016. And once you're recruited for the pageant, you pay a small entry fee, you make sure you fill out all the paperwork, and then she has a training session for young women, I should say us old girls. But she has a training session for us. We work through our talent routine. She works us through interviews, pretty much the same process that you follow with a younger woman. But we have a certain sisterhood in terms of us being all around the same age. So there's a different type of feel to it.
So then when you said the last 2 were at large, what does that mean? What's different about those 2?
At large means that someone was selected due to either something that happened health-wise, or something that happened with, like our current situation, the pandemic. Health-wise, last year, we couldn't do it because there was sickness in the Senior Alabama family, and the pageant had to be postponed. And she selected someone at large who had already decided that she was interested in it, and she went and competed and placed in the top 10. This year, the same thing with the pandemic. I was prepped and ready and already promoting Lowndes County, where my family is from, and she asked me if I'd like to take on the mantle since we had this pandemic and June was coming and there was no way we could actually get together as a family group, as sisters, because of all the health issues. Because when you're over 60, you're in that high bracket of potential sicknesses. So I told her, I'd love to do it. That's not a problem. I've got time. I can prep. And then Nationals postponed everything until next October, 2021. So that made it even more influential for me to go ahead and get ready for this, because it gave me time to get sponsors, prepare myself for the job ahead, and to represent Alabama, which is my home state, to the best of my ability.
So now you have the title of Senior Miss Alabama until then next year when you go and compete at the national competition.
October
Is that correct?
2021, right. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. So what does it mean to you, I guess, to like you said, represent Central Alabama, where you're from, all those kinds of things? I mean, what does that mean to you?
It means that there are sponsors that have followed me on my journey the last 3 years, that I can now go and make appearances, do ribbon cuttings, support them, that I can generate new sponsors, because now that I have the state title, it means I'm much more available to local sponsors or state sponsors who want to assist me with my journey to Atlantic City, New Jersey in October of next year.
That's awesome. What do you feel like you need to work on? I mean, what do you need to improve to be ready to compete at a national level? Have you ever competed at a national level?
I have. In
Good.
2003, I was Miss Plus Alabama for Miss Plus America, which was the first pageant of its kind to feature women over size 14. Okay? And interestingly enough, I was the smallest one of 3 in my group. And plus size women have a hard reputation to overcome. People always think that if you're plus size, you got heart problems, you've got diabetes, you got whatever. But we don't. We're healthy. We just happen to accumulate our love in a few different places, as I always tell my kids. My kids are grown. Before I had them, I was a size 12. I am a size 22 now. So, that's just love that's accumulated over the years.
So tell me about what it was like competing on the national level and what you're looking forward to most when you do it again in October.
Meeting people from someplace other than Alabama. I always enjoy making new friends, especially on a national level. I love traveling, and I've never been to Atlantic City, but when I went to watch the Miss America pageant in 2007, I got a chance to see a lot of people, go to a lot of places. So Atlantic City's on my bucket list. It was the next thing to do. It will be a great experience.
That's awesome. And speak a little bit about, I mean, I don't want to get, you said we don't want to get into politics. I don't want to talk about politics much either, but there has been some obviously racial unrest lately. We can't ignore that. Speak a little bit about being a good role model for young Black women, especially here in Central Alabama.
Well, for example, being a mother, I teach my children that it's very important to treat other people the way you want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My son is 6'5" and weighs 300 pounds. He can be intimidating if you don't know how sweet he is. So I've always taught him from the time he was in the 6th grade and was already 6 feet tall. People will look at you and think first that, oh, he's scary, he's a big Black kid. No, he's always the type of child that'll greet you with a smile. My daughter is sweet and dedicated to her work. She's works in the ER at a local hospital. Everybody knows how lovely she is. An attitude doesn't solve anything unless it's an attitude of grace. I raised my children in church. When I became a minister, they became PKs, preacher's kids. So they know what's expected of them. I grew up as a preacher's grandkid. I knew what was expected of me. And if you treat people the way you expect to be treated and honor your commitment to God, then everything goes according to God's plans and not yours.
Do you feel pressure to be a role model to all young women, Black young women, Alabamans? I mean, is there sort of something on your shoulders that you say, I've got to represent well?
No, because one of the things I've always believed in is that if you are forthright, if you live by the standards and rules that your parents raised you by, if you, nobody's perfect, let me say that. So everybody always has some kind of issue. I've had mine. My kids have one issue or another that I find it's things that I need to change or whatever, but they're grown. I have to let them find their own way. I can't be a role model for anybody if I'm not a role model for myself first. So you have to live your life according to the way, as I said, the way you want people to treat you, the way you want people to see you as an individual. You have to be willing to have the courage to stand up for your convictions. And I've always believed that. I believe in standing up for what I believe in.
That is so awesome. So before we wrap up, I just want to, touch base on, obviously you are from Central Alabama. That is our focus here at Central Alabama Voice. What do you think are some of the best things that we have going for us here in Central Alabama? And how do you think that you as Miss Senior Alabama can kind of bring light to such a great area?
Well, Alabama has 5 things that I absolutely love. All right. First thing I love is peaches and watermelons. I love Chilton County peaches. That's what I go in the store and I look for are my Chilton County peaches. They have to be nice and crisp. They can't be soft. Watermelons, we grow the best in the world here. So those 2 products right off the top. We have a lot of beautiful historic monuments, churches, buildings, the new memorial that just went in downtown 2 years ago. We have a lot of history in Alabama, especially in the central part of the state. As a small child, my mother typed letters for Martin Luther King. So
wow.
There's a connection there, okay? I don't think you can learn how to navigate yourself into the future unless you know something about your past. So it's very important that people know their history, especially here in the South, especially here in Alabama. So on my Facebook page, if you've ever visited, and I invite you to do so if you haven't, there's something for everybody on my page. I post videos, I post news and information about happenings in Central Alabama, in Montgomery, in some places in the world that involve Alabama. I try to keep everybody updated on Hurricane Sally, Mustang Sally as I call her, and thankfully she's gone. I try to keep people abreast of what's happening in my world, which is Alabama.
That is very cool. You said that you love watermelons in Alabama. Where's the best place in your opinion? Obviously Chilton County peaches, but where's your best places, in your opinion, to get a watermelon in Alabama?
Montgomery, actually.
Oh, okay.
There are a lot of people who bring their produce in from various places. So in terms of watermelon, it's definitely here in Montgomery.
That's awesome. Well, I wish you the best of luck, and I'm really glad that you got to join us today to talk about pageantry. And like I said, I think there is such that, I don't know if it's a stigma or a misconception probably about pageant girls, and they're just pretty faces, and there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, definitely, especially when you consider that the pageant industry on whole is the largest single supplier of scholarships for women.
I did not know that.
Yes.
That is awesome.
More women win scholarship money through pageant competition than anything else.
So something else I did want to ask you, if there's a girl here in Central Alabama that wanted to get involved with pageantries, what would your advice be for her to do so here at home?
Background research. Do her background research. If she has a pageant that she wants to do, the first thing she needs to consider is Google the pageant, follow it on Facebook, look at the last person that may have represented the state, whether it's at large or whether it's a state competition, try to go to the actual pageant itself before you stick your toe in and decide to enter. But do a background search on the pageant before you decide to jump in head first.
Gotcha. Well, cool. Well, thank you, Rose. I appreciate you being on with us today on Central Alabama Voice.
Thanks, Liz, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. If we can do anything for you, please let us know.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.